To enjoy the hobby, you need projects. So find a project that you can always turn to in the ups and downs of the hobby, because it's going to keep you involved, going to keep you active, and you love the looks of those cards.
What is up? Welcome back to Fondling Cardboard. I'm your host, Mike Lakusta, aka the Golf Card Collector. Thank you, Jeremy Lee, for the introduction to this episode. Now, Jeremy Lee is obviously the host of the Sports Card Live podcast, which is a very popular show, adored by basically everyone in the hobby. And it was pretty cool to see Jeremy collaborating with my friend Paul Hickey on the Sports Card Strategy show this Monday, as well as on Saturday on the Sports Card Live podcast. Be sure to check out both of those episodes because they talked about a ton of great things relating to investing and flipping in sports cards, some of the hate and drama that can come with that way to participate in the hobby, and also ways that collectors and investors can have common ground. And I think Paul has really opened my eyes to that by being part of the Collector versus Investor series, which wrapped up a few weeks ago. So if you haven't checked out that 4-part series yet, rewind, hit my archives, and go check it out. But the thing from their conversations that hit me hardest was that very short clip that I played at the beginning of this episode. Because I have been working on various projects in the hobby. I've alluded to a few of them, such as my obsession over the Goodwin Champions Cosmic Parallels, my 2021 Upper Deck Artifacts Golf Diamond Relics set, various other projects that I'm working on like player collecting, team collecting, that sort of thing. Now, 2 episodes ago in the 5 lessons from collecting sports cards most people don't want, I talked about these different ways of collecting as my lanes. I would say I collect golf cards, therefore golf cards is one of my lanes. I collect the Arizona Coyotes. That's another lane I collect in. I collect Mathew Wolff cards as a player PC. That's another lane that I collect in. But what Jeremy made me realize is that not only are these just categories that I collect in, but I've treated them as projects that I'm working on with discrete beginnings, ends, goals, targets, plans. It's not just this category of things that I would tell somebody when they ask me, what kind of cards do you like? Oh, well, I collect the Coyotes. Oh, here, let me send you pictures of the Coyotes cards I have, just in case you're interested. Yeah, I do still enjoy doing that sort of thing. However, when I talk about a project, it has very explicit directions that I want to go and very specific cards that I want, that I have to chase, that I have to hunt. Because how likely is it that somebody's just going to casually mention that they have the exact card that I want? Unless it's some commodity, base rookie card of a player that is fairly popular, then that's likely to be a card that somebody has kicking around on their card desks. But I'm talking about very niche, rare, low serial numbered types of cards, which happen to be the types of cards that I'm chasing for my personal projects. Now, when I was inspired by what Jeremy briefly said, I went trying to find the difference between a collecting lane and a personal project. And as I was researching the definitions of projects, for instance, all this business, construction, software development type stuff keeps popping up in my research. And I thought, of course there's lessons to be learned from those types of professional practices. But what I'm really looking for is a personal project. And so I just typed personal project definition into Google, and it gave me this. A personal project is your project to do with what you want to do, to show the skills that you have developed over the years in your subjects, focusing on a particular lens and applying them to a goal. Wow, like if that didn't describe what I'm trying to do with some of my card projects, I don't know what describes it better. Now, Paul Hickey would say, buying cards on eBay doesn't require skill. That's easy. Ha, yeah, right, Paul. The projects I'm going after do have a chase element. It's cards that don't pop up every day. It's cards that I have to connect with people in the hobby and develop friendships and rapport. And as Jeremy actually mentioned in his interview with Paul, you have to develop trust, almost like the seller who owns this and loves this card that I want will vet me out to believe and trust that I'm a true collector that will cherish the card in the same way that he or she does. And that's something that the flipper investor community just would never understand. Anyways, I digress. I am going to be covering the various projects that I've been collecting over the recent years and diving into what makes them personal, what skills have I had to employ to develop those projects over the years, what focuses have I had and how have those shifted over time, and what is my particular goal with each of them. And I'll be giving a bit of an update on where each of them is at for those who are interested. So that's what I'll be covering in the next episode. But today, I will be sharing a story, something totally serendipitous that happened to me today, in fact, that 100% revolves around hobby projects. But before I get into that, let's do a little bit of an update on what's going on in the world, because there's some exciting stuff happening in golf, football, not exciting, but some sad news from other sports in the world. So let's dive into that. Now, I know what all of you listeners were tuning into this past weekend. There was a big sporting event going on that ended on Sunday. That's right, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. I was sort of half following the tournament because a fellow Canadian, Nick Taylor, was in contention, and he's actually a golfer that I collect, that I really enjoy following. And as I'm cleaning the house, kind of keeping my eye on the TV, I noticed that he was second place, sitting in second, with 4 holes to play, but 3 strokes behind the lead. And I thought, all right, good run, Nick. Really good effort. But, you know, I even told my wife, hey, honey, remember that Nick guy that went to high school with my cousin? Yeah, he looks like he came second place at the Waste Management, which is a really big event. Very famous for partying, and this will be great for his resume and his reputation for being so successful, because I think he even came runner-up last year. Too bad he can't get the win one of these days. So I flipped the TV onto the Super Bowl channel, and we carried on with our evening, taking care of the kids, doing our chores, when suddenly my watch buzzed. And it was a notification from the Score app on my phone saying, Nick Taylor, Canadian, forces playoff with incredible 4-hole run. I immediately tried to flip through the channels to find the Waste Management Phoenix Open on the TV. But instead of being able to find this ensuing playoff, instead I found dozens of channels only playing the Super Bowl. So I threw up a message on my Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group saying, hey guys, who's watching the golf tournament and where can I find it? 3 regulars in the group, Thomas Meyer, Pat Bonnet, and Brian Yurkovich, all commented saying, I've got it on the Peacock app on the phone, enjoying the playoff. Go Canada, go Nick Taylor. And I just had to sit in the dark. But about 30 minutes later, my watch buzzed again and said, Canadian caps off epic comeback win in 2-hole playoff. Anyway, maybe it was good luck that I didn't turn on the show, because last year when he was in contention and I followed it right down to the 18th hole and he couldn't quite pull it through, you know, maybe I'm just his bad luck charm. So if any of you guys missed a sporting event that you would have absolutely loved to have seen live, but maybe it was like an anti-jinx that you weren't able to watch, I'm holding one Nick Taylor card that I absolutely love. It's the 2021 Upper Deck Artifacts dual relic rookie patch autograph card, serial numbered out of 25. That's the gold parallel. And I have this of my two favorite Canadian golfers. Well, maybe not my favorites per se, because I really love all the Canadian PGA members. But these are the two in that set, Adam Hadwin and Nick Taylor. I don't mean to drone on about this particular win, but I ended up watching the recap on Monday morning before I started work, and it gave me the warm fuzzies. And it's silly to even say this because it's so obvious, but it really felt like a flashback to last year's RBC Canadian Open because there was just so many parallels. He was coming from behind, forced a playoff, multiple playoff holes, and hit a big putt to just end a birdie train to win the event. Nick Taylor is just a badass. Now on the flip side, I did get to watch a bit of Super Bowl. I'm not a huge football fan, but I'll always watch the bowl, of course. And I'm one of these guys who's just going to jump on the GOAT bandwagon. So I was happy to see Mahomes pull off a win, even though the Chiefs have been getting a lot of flack, I know, in recent months. With the whole Taylor Swift of it all. And Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes acting like a bit of buffoons sometimes. They've been called all sorts of names like crybaby and entitled, whatever. At the end of the day, that performance was incredible, and I just love being a part of history and witnessing the sequence of events that make somebody become one of the greats. And also, it's been kind of fun because my wife is a Swiftie, and her and Travis Kelce is all that she can talk about these days. She's watched probably more Super Bowl post-game interviews than I have, just to get a sense of what Travis Kelce's personality is like. So I just think it's fun that the wife's getting into sports. I had one of those silly shower thoughts the other day. The Super Bowl is basically the Masters of football. The Masters is obviously the Super Bowl of golf. And man, let's throw up a countdown. There's 55 days to the first tee time of the Masters. That is going to go by like a snap of your finger. Every year, I run a friendly pool with some of my friends and business contacts. And not to toot my own horn too much, but I built a pretty cool web interface that my participants have raved about for the past few years. Basically, pool participants can track the pool standings live throughout the tournament with a live leaderboard that refreshes every few minutes. And so not only can you be looking at the actual tournament leaderboard of the golfers, but every pool participant has multiple golfers on their roster, making it a bit of a complicated calculation that most pool hosts would just run the numbers after each round. But after, doing some spreadsheeting and programming, it makes a pretty fun experience for everybody. So this year, I'll plan on offering some kind of pool to you, the Fondling Cardboard listeners. I haven't decided about the format exactly or how it will involve golf cards, because I think it should in some way. But hit me up if you have any suggestions. And if I don't hear from you, just stay tuned for some kind of announcement about that. And to wrap up the golf talk, this week obviously is the Genesis Invitational. Tiger Woods is making his season debut. And I haven't really looked through the leaderboard. I was following Tiger a little bit throughout his round. I believe he shot 1 over, if I recall correctly. And it sounds like he was feeling pretty tight. I heard some headlines that he was having back spasms. So I'm not going to look too deeply into it. I just really hope the big cat's doing okay. And let's follow him for the rest of the weekend. Hopefully we get to see some Sunday red. I don't know the right way to cover this important story that's coming up next, so I'll just start at the beginning. Less than 2 years ago, the next running GOAT, that is greatest of all time, made his marathon debut. In his first ever marathon run, he broke the 2 hour, 2 minute mark, becoming only the third man in history ever to do so. And it was the 4th best performance of all time in his debut race. In his second ever marathon, he ran the second fastest marathon time ever, only 16 seconds behind the world record mark that was set by the legendary Eliud Kipchoge. In his third ever marathon race, this past October, he smashed the world record, setting an unbelievable 2 hour and 35-second run, inspiring the world that it might be possible to break the unbreakable 2-hour barrier. His effort currently stands as the only marathoner to break the 2-hour 1-minute mark. He is the only runner that I'm aware of to ever negative split every single one of his races, meaning the second half was always faster than the first half of his race, which is extremely difficult to do, especially in the marathon. This man's training regime was unmatched in the running world. He had the drive and the commitment that I can only think to compare to Tiger Woods. On February 11th, just 4 days ago from this recording, the 24-year-old superstar Kelvin Kiptum died in a car accident in his home country of Kenya, alongside his lifelong running coach. To give perspective, this is the equivalent of Tiger Woods dying within a few months after winning the 1997 Masters. Long-distance runners often do not peak until their 30s, and Kelvin Kiptum was the most dedicated and talented runner in history at only 24 years old. And this might be one of the biggest what-ifs in all of sports. Rest in peace, Kelvin Kiptum. I appreciate you guys sitting through all of that various sports talk and not quite diving too deep into cards like I normally do. But let's finally get into the topic of the day, which I alluded to earlier with Jeremy Lee's clip about projects. Earlier today, I was visiting one of my customers. For those of you who don't know, I work in sales and I deal with repeat accounts that I get to know on a personal level. And after a very productive meeting, in fact, we spent a couple of hours hashing out all sorts of details on projects that we're working on in business. Just as we were wrapping up and I was about to shake his hand and head out the door, I noticed a familiar shaped box on the corner of his desk. So I walked around the desk and picked it up, and sure enough, it was a blaster box. So I turned it over and it said Star Wars Series 1. So I said, wow, I didn't know you collect cards. This is super cool. And he said, yeah. And he opened up the box and showed me the cards. And he said, I don't really like these ones. They're paper and, that you can get different parallels. And I got this cool Darth Vader patch card, but he said, all in all, I wasn't too happy with it. So then he reaches down and pulls out 2 binders full of complete sets of Tim Hortons hockey cards. And we proceed to have a wonderful hobby conversation. I had no idea this guy that I've known for a couple of years was a card collector. Now, I knew just based on some of his artwork in his office that he liked Star Wars and, we could probably bond over some of that collector type stuff. But to know that there are people out there in your world, in your circles, in your businesses, in your companies that share the same passion that you have, or that I have, I guess I should talk from my own experience. It's uplifting, it's encouraging, and it was really nice to connect with someone that way in an unexpected environment. So as we flipped through his binders, he talked to me about his personal projects. Buying Tim Hortons cards every time he would swing by the coffee shop to get a coffee. For you Americans who don't have Tim Hortons, it's a very popular chain all across Canada. There's a joke that Tim Hortons is a Canadian stop sign. There's one on every corner. And for certain times of the year, they have a promotional hockey card, a $1 pack that has 3 cards in it that you can pick up while you're grabbing a coffee. And my customer, his name's Jason, had collected an entire set. In fact, I believe it was 2 entire sets. And he told me the ins and outs, how he really enjoyed opening the packs and trying to pull all of the cards himself, until he finally reached a tipping point where he did some math and realized if I were to try and keep opening packs, it would take me 500 more packs, likely, to pull the remaining 5 or 6 cards I need. So he succumbed to the collector's desire to complete the set and went on to eBay or Facebook Marketplace or a Facebook group that he's a part of to round off those last few cards to complete his set. And sure enough, he got her done. So what does one do? After working hours, when you're supposed to be heading home, helping to make dinner, get the kids to bed, you're already running past the clock. You're standing in an office where employees have mostly already left for the day. Well, what do you do when someone brings up the topic that you're most passionate about? Well, of course, I pulled out my phone and started showing pictures of my cards, the projects that I'm working on, the Ship My Cards account, because he told me about a Star Wars figurine that would have cost him $30 shipping, and so he never got it. We shared advice, how to collect, how to buy from different parts of the world. I told him about sniping services so that you don't have to be sitting on eBay during your dinner time with your family. We had a wonderful conversation about the hobby, different collectibles that we're each chasing, what inspired us to go after those sets, those cards, those athletes, those characters. And I told him about my podcast and my mission to uncover why I collect and what drives me to participate in the sports card hobby. With every turn that our conversation went and every ebb and flow of information that we shared with each other, we just both became more and more excited. I could see it in his eyes. Both of us just had a long day of work, and yet we were getting pumped up right at the end of the day because we found basically a new friend in someone who we had already known for a long time but didn't realize that we could connect on this level. And sure enough, I glanced down at my watch, and over an hour had gone by since our meeting had ended. This is what the hobby can do. This is what a passion, not just for the specific cards, but for projects, for sharing your lanes, sharing your why, the why you collect. That can help you develop intimate relationships with those around you. And that's just one more reason to collect trading cards. Now we get to move into my new favorite segment of the show, Mailbag. Now, last episode, or before last episode, I suppose, I threw out the line asking you listeners on the Instagram and the Facebook for any questions or comments about the show, and I was overwhelmed with all of the amazing comments and questions that you guys gave, so I decided to run it back for today. First up, we have Jeremy Lee, our friend from the beginning of this episode, who asks, how does the fact that golfers can play and have success for a much longer spanning career than other sports impact golf card collectors? Well, Jeremy, the first thing that comes to mind is that having a lengthy career, using Tiger Woods as an example, it can mean that collecting can get a bit stale, because when you have a superstar that just never goes away, they can overshadow a lot of the young guns. Pardon the pun there, there's literally going to be young guns inserts in the next golf set, but they can overshadow the rookies and the upcoming stars. On the flip side, again, referring to Tiger Woods, it can be a saving grace, because there will always be people buying product if they know they can hit a sweet Tiger Woods card. So, it's a little bit of a catch-22, Jeremy. Picture Tom Brady hitting the scene when he was only a teenager, and then playing competitively all the way into his 50s, and having playing day cards from basically that entire era. Tiger Woods isn't in his 50s, I'm just projecting out, assuming, praying, hoping that he will make it that long. But as for, the average Hall of Famer golfer, that's basically how their career can go. All right, Jeremy, I hope that answered it. I'm going to move on to Brandon Kaiser, who asked a couple of questions. Firstly, what are some of your favorite golf memories from the past? Golf's a funny sport because you can have amazing memories from your own life. It's a sport you can play for a long time. And so I'd say my favorite memories are just playing with my friends and family, my nephew and uncle, my best friend who recently got addicted to golf. And years ago when we used to play, and he was an absolute hack and didn't even know how to swing the club, and I used to destroy him every round. And then I had kids, and now he is becoming a golfer, and we haven't had a chance to play together yet since he's actually become a player. So I just have good memories of beating his butt and then hoping that the tables haven't turned. But in terms of professional golf, there's one memory that really stands out to me. And it's the 2019 Masters. Not to get corny here, but I was visiting some family on Vancouver Island, and I just have these very vibrant memories. Sitting in my aunt's living room with the TV on, and my grandfather was there. He was sitting in a rocking chair. I was sitting beside him on a stool. He'd be asking me questions about what's going on in the golf tournament. And I'd just basically be updating the whole family on, what each of the turns meant and what each of the holes meant in terms of scoring and different scenarios that could play out basically every step of the way, all the way right up until Tiger won. And my grandfather passed away just over a year ago. And that's, honestly, one of my favorite memories with him. I've got a lot of amazing memories with him that don't involve watching TV, but yeah, that one's extra special. And Brandon actually went on to ask if Tiger Woods, if I was a fan of Tiger Woods growing up. You know what? Actually, I wasn't really. I wasn't really following golf in my childhood. I loved playing sports, but funny enough, my dad discouraged me from playing golf. In fact, it wasn't that he discouraged me. It's that he was so kind of aggressive with his beliefs. And when he played golf in his earlier years, he screwed up his swing by never getting lessons and just having a really wacky homemade swing. And he basically told me, do not play golf until you're ready to get lessons. Start from the very beginning with a professional and have them teach you the right way to swing a club. And as a kid, I was never about to go sign up for my own golf lessons. I suppose I could have asked for them because I was always interested. But I never really picked it up until I was an adult. And I moved away from home. And in fact, I got into sales. And I do go golfing from time to time with my customers. And as an adult, I realized if screw what my dad said. If I don't go and pick up a set of golf clubs, I never will. So I picked up a janky set of golf clubs from a friend's garage and just started trying to hit the ball. Oh, geez. I'm going off on some sidebars here, so hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Anyways, Brandon Kaiser went on to say that he enjoyed Phil Mickelson growing up as well as Payne Stewart. Right on, dude. And also he asks, what do you consider to be Mathew Wolff's best card? This one is an easy question because for those of you who know me, I'm a Mathew Wolff collector, a Mathew Wolff super collector. And my favorite card by far is the Mathew Wolff Purple Precious Metal Gems 1 of 1. And of course, I own this card because it completed my Mathew Wolff Precious Metal Gems Rainbow. Heck, I might even have to use that as the card of the week. I already planned out a different card, but we'll see. Thanks, Brandon. Moving on, continuing on actually in the Instagram, Eric says that the 2001 SP Authentic Tiger Woods rookie autograph, numbered out of 900, is the most overrated card in golf. And that kind of blew my mind. In fact, I responded to him and said, blasphemy. And he went on to say they go for more than $12,000 and there's 900 of them. And so I did some data research for you, Eric. And, you know, PSA 9s are actually selling for like $8,000 to $9,000. So it's definitely come down, especially since 2001. 2002, I remember being able to find BGS 9.5s of this card for under $5,000. Now, currently, that's selling for about $11,000. So it would have been a pretty smart move to pick one up last year. Or not last year, I guess, in 2022. But yeah, I think just putting aside dollar amounts, the reason that this is the card is that it's the rookie autograph pack pulled card of the greatest of all time, of Tiger Woods. And if you want to argue that Jack Nicklaus is the greatest of all time, fine. But Jack Nicklaus doesn't have pack pulled rookie autograph cards. So this is the modern day era of golf cards, started in 2001. And this is the holy grail of the modern day golf cards. Now, Eric mentioned that the out of 100 version of it, he might be able to get on board with, but he's still not crazy about it. I mean, then we're just getting into semantics. If Wayne Gretzky, in the same year as his 1979 O-Pee-Chee, if he had a version of that card serial numbered out of 900 that was autographed as the Wayne Gretzky pack pulled rookie autograph card, that card would be worth so much money. So if your whole argument is based on dollars, I'm not buying it. And you could say the same about Michael Jordan. If Michael Jordan had a rookie autograph card serial numbered out of 900 pack pulled rookie auto, it would be so sought after by so many people. Tiger Woods is that guy in golf, and he happens to have that card. So I'm sorry, Eric, but that is the card. All right, last one from Instagram. Jesse Gibson from Sports Card Nonsense says, okay, I'm 10 minutes into your episode, and I'll say that if the pod doesn't work out, you definitely have a future with NPR. And he put a smiley face. And Jesse, I really appreciate that, because you're not the first to tell me that I have NPR vibes. And yeah, that's kind of what I go for, I guess. I'm not a high energy show, and I hope you listeners still enjoy what I'm laying down. Jesse went on to say, your voice is so relaxing. I love it. And also your mailbag impression was pretty close, but if you can make it more annoying and high pitched, then you'll have it nailed. So, all right, next week, if we do mailbag again, I'll have to do it just like Jesse Gibson. I'll have to stand back a little bit from the microphone when I say this. Mailbag! Okay, that was awful. Moving on to mailbag from the Facebook Golf Cards and Memorabilia group. Jonathan Bobbitt says, has Upper Deck released their checklist anywhere from the 2024 golf product? March release was hoping we could see who the rookies are by now. Yeah, sorry, Jonathan. I think I've mentioned this in earlier podcast episodes, but Upper Deck typically doesn't release their checklist right up until release date. They, for some reason, hold it very tight to their chest. They just kind of announce what the look of the cards are going to be like, what the inserts are going to be called, and they spoil usually 5 to 10 different players or 5 to 10 different cards. As you approach the March release date, it's possible that we will get 1, 2, maybe 3 more spoilers, but we're not going to get the full checklist until the release. All right, moving on. James Peacock says, what is your favorite golf set and why? So, my favorite golf set. Oh, that's a toughie. It's a toughie because the golf card lanes that I've been most excited about and most passionate about have actually been coming from multi-sport sets, like Goodwin Champions and Metal Universe Champions. And I absolutely love the Chrome, I guess with Upper Deck they're called the Platinum cards, and the Cosmic Parallels, the low serial numbered Platinum cards for golf. And then on the Metal Universe side of things, obviously the Precious Metal Gems, the Retro Star Rubies, all of those kind of amazing cards that transfer over from other sports that I've collected. So, that I don't know if I would necessarily say one of those is my favorite set though. So if I really had to limit it down to my favorite golf set, I'm going to say 2021 Upper Deck Artifacts, because that's really when I jumped 2 feet in to being the golf card collector, to wanting to do some kind of podcast or some kind of content creation. I ripped a couple of those hobby boxes, and even though I didn't get hits, it just has such a fond memory. The 2021 Upper Deck Artifacts, there were so many different situations that I encountered during that year and chasing those cards and obsessing over them that will really probably stand out for me far and above a lot of experiences that I'll have from here on out. So that's why. And last but not least, Pascal Garneau asks, why is Upper Deck so lame in terms of golf cards? Haha. I mean, I've talked about this before, but Upper Deck faces a challenge, and I don't want to let them off the hook because you're right, they've been lame. But they face a challenge of treating golf the same way they would with any other sport. Golf isn't an organized league with player contracts grouped by teams with a players association that can have collective bargaining. Golf is a sport of independent contractors who basically do whatever the hell they want and maintain all of their own rights to their own image, likeness, name, photographs. So it would be on a case-by-case basis to get these players to sign up to make trading cards of them. And so if you have 150 full-time PGA Tour card holders, just from what I've noticed, Upper Deck seems to maybe lock down a third of them. Now, the bottom third of the PGA Tour card holders are guys that maybe you don't really care to have their trading cards. Somebody out there in the world would love to have them, but it's not that big of a deal. But where it really does matter is, let's say in that top 100, if we can get 50 of them to sign up, it's not going to be the top 50. It's going to be kind of a smattering, maybe a handful of the top guys, 2 or 3 of the top 10. And the rest either just want too much money or Upper Deck just can't come to some kind of agreement with them. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect is that golf doesn't have a proper rookie season. There's no draft. There's no solid beginning to the season of golf because players can make their very first debut halfway through the season or even on the last tournament of the year. And it just creates this continuous rolling over of players that never really has an official timeline. And so when golf cards are being designed, produced, and then released, the timing doesn't line up well with when the players are actually relevant. All right, that wraps up Mailbag. Thank you guys all for your questions. And next we're going to get into the Card of the Week Spotlight. So I was going to do the 2021 Metal Universe Champions Tiger Woods Retro Star Rubies, which is a big boy card. A stunning visual, a stunning throwback to the 90s Retro Star Rubies. And it's Tiger Woods. But with the question coming up of what is Mathew Wolff's best card, and me already kind of talking a little bit about his PMG, I just decided, game time decision, we're calling it live. Mathew Wolff Purple PMG Precious Metal Gems 1 of 1. That's the card of the week. I'm going to throw up some pictures on social media. That is at Fondling Cardboard on Instagram and at The Golf Card Collector, also on Instagram. I'll probably throw a picture of this up on the Golf Cards and Memorabilia group as well. These just have this beautiful shimmer, this beautiful texture. Purple wouldn't have been my first choice for 1 of 1. I would have chosen black or gold, but it is unique. It's a beautiful looking card, and that 1 of 1 stamp on the back is just beautiful. Speaking of the back, they 100% honored the original design what is that group called? The husband and wife pair who designed Arena something design. I'm so sorry, I can't remember your name, but there's a husband and wife couple who created and designed the original precious metal gems back in the 90s, and they were contracted back again by Upper Deck to re-implement these amazing iconic designs around 2021 with their Metal Universe Champions sets. And I actually believe that the husband in the partnership passed away. And that would have been relatively recently. So sorry if this is the episode of honoring people's passings, but thank you for your contributions. This is a very iconic design. You've left a mark on the hobby. Well, that wraps up today's episode of Fondling Cardboard. I really hope you enjoyed listening. I put a lot of work into this. The only thing I ask of you in return is to enjoy what you hear and to pass it along to a friend. So let somebody you know who's also into sports cards, golf, or if they just think they like chill, raspy voices talking about something that they're passionate about, let them know about Mike Lakusta, the golf card collector, on Fondling Cardboard. Thanks again. Talk to you next week.